Hope you all are healthy and doing well. Today we are going to discuss liver function tests. What is the objective of this practical? That end of this practical, you should be able to enlist different liver function tests. Means whenever physician prescribes LFT, that is liver function test, which tests to be included in the list, like enzymes, SGOT, SGPT enzyme, then serum bilirubin level, protein measurement, urobilinogen in the urine and stool, prothrombin time. Like these are the tests which is included as a liver function test. The other objective is to know about liver biopsy. What are the indications, contraindications, and complications of the liver biopsy? So, what is the function of liver? We all know that liver is the largest organ of the body and it has dual blood supply and it has a complex functions. So, we can distribute the function of the liver in different ways, like it has metabolic function, that it metabolizes proteins, fats, carbohydrates. It has synthetic function in the form of synthesis of plasma proteins, albumin, immunoglobulin, then secretion and excretion of bile, detoxification of different endogenous and exogenous substances, storage of glycogen, vitamins, iron, etc., and hematological function in the form of hemopoiesis, by synthesis of coagulation factor, production of fibrinogen, prothrombin, heparin. So these are the major functions of the liver. Now the classification of liver function tests. So the test which measures the excretory function of the liver, like measuring serum bilirubin level and urobilinogen level in the urine and feces. The second test is that assess the synthetic and metabolic function of the liver. For example, measuring serum total protein, serum albumin level, albumin globulin ratio, prothrombin time, and blood ammonia level. Then third are the tests that assess the hepatic injury, because when there is damage to hepatocytes, there is release of enzymes within that are there in the cytoplasm. So these cytoplasmic or mitochondrial enzymes is released into the serum because of the breakdown of the hepatocyte. So that will test the hepatic injury. In that comes serum AST, ALT, then serum alkaline phosphate as ALP, GGT level, that is serum gamma glutamyl transferase level, and 5-nucleotidase enzyme level. And the fourth test is that assess the clearance of exogenous substance by the liver, like bromosulfithin excretion test. So these are the different tests included in the liver function test based on its function, like it's the test that assess excretory function, test that assess synthetic function, test that assess the hepatic injury, and test that assess the clearance. Now it has certain limitation, because we have known that it has a very plenty of functions and it is complex way of functioning. So it is very difficult to determine this function and numerous tests will be required. It has also reserve large amount of the functional and anatomical reserve. So detection of mild derangement is very difficult. Also, liver function tests are affected by certain extrahepatic factors also. So we cannot certainly say that it is because of liver dysfunction only. We need a large number of tests to come at a conclusion. And same type of functional derangement can be produced by different pathological process. So to arrive at precise diagnosis is also become difficult. For example, serum bilirubin level, so that is raised by hepatitis also, and it is raised in obstructive like gallstone obstruction into the bile duct, so there is extrahepatic obstruction. So in hepatic as well as extrahepatic process, the serum bilirubin level may be raised. So functional derangement is there in serum bilirubin, but the pathological process is different. So we cannot by just one test arrive at a precise diagnosis. Now in detail about the different tests. So first is the serum bilirubin. It is very important test to measure the liver function. Now we know that bilirubin is produced by the breakage of the heme. Among heme there is porphyrin rings. The iron is reabsorbed and the porphyrin rings is undergone further breakdown and there forms the biliverdin, which is a green colored substance, and then it is forming the bilirubin, which is a yellow colored substance. Now there are two types of this bilirubin. One is conjugated, another name is the direct bilirubin, and it is water soluble, so it is excreted by the kidneys. While the another is the indirect and unconjugated bilirubin, which is insoluble in water and it is tightly bound to albumin in the blood and it is not excreted by the kidney easily. The third type of bilirubin that you all may be aware or may not be, that is delta bilirubin. What is delta bilirubin? So that is the part of bilirubin which is covalently bound to albumin in circulation. So it is persistent. It has a longer half life, and so it persists in the circulation for very longer duration and slowly cleared from the circulation. Normally it is absent or present in very small amount, but when there is conjugated bilirubin is very raised and it is for prolonged duration, then there is a high proportion of the delta bilirubin is seen, like in cholestasis. Normal value for total bilirubin is 0.3 to 1 milligram. Direct bilirubin is zero point 0.1 to zero point 0.3 milligram, means just 10% of the total bilirubin, and indirect bilirubin is zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.7 milligram. 1 milligram is the upper limit for the normal indirect bilirubin level. Now how we measure the bilirubin? So there are two methods, DIASO method and direct spectroscopy. DIASO method, we have to collect the blood into the plain vacuity because we need the serum. So we have to collect the blood in plain vacuity and it will measure the total and direct bilirubin, and we will detect the indirect bilirubin by subtracting direct from the total bilirubin. Direct spectroscopic is a non-invasive procedure, non-invasive method where we don't need to prick the skin and collect the blood. By this instrument, we measure the total bilirubin in newborns and infants directly. The principle is based on spectrophotometer. There is a specific wavelength of 450 nanometer. The light of that 450 nanometer has been passed through the skin and the absorbance is directly proportional to the concentration of serum bilirubin. So this is a very widely used method in practice, especially in newborns and infants, to measure the bilirubin level. Okay, direct spectroscopic measure. We don't need to collect the blood directly by applying the photometer towards the skin. We can measure the bilirubin level. Now the second test is measurement of bilirubin in the urine. Which bilirubin will come in the urine? Only conjugated, okay, or direct bilirubin, which is water soluble. So when we found the urine bilirubin positive, the test is like Faucher's test that will detect the bile pigment. It will be seen only in hepatocellular, in later stage, and in obstructive type of jaundice where there is direct bilirubin increased in the blood as well as is passes into the urine. In hemolytic type, it will be negative. The another test is urobilinogen. It is measured in urine and feces. Now conjugated bilirubin is, as we know that it is water soluble, so it will be excreted in urine. and will be detected by the Faucet's or Gamlin test. But this level urobilinogen is detected in the hemolytic jaundice only, and it is decreased or absent in obstructive jaundice. Now, what is jaundice? So, jaundice is the yellowish discoloration of the skin, sclera, or the mucous membrane due to increased level of the bilirubin in the serum. Now, it is classified based on the type of bilirubin increase. So, it is conjugated hyperbilirubinemia or unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. According to etiology, it can be classified into hemolytic jaundice, hepatocellular jaundice, or obstructive jaundice. What is hemolytic jaundice? When there is increased red cell destruction. Okay. In hemolytic anemia, there is lifespan of RBC has been reduced. Then there is increased bilirubin production, and then serum bilirubin level is raised, which is of unconjugated type. The second is the hepatocellular, where the hepatocytes are unable to conjugate the bilirubin or excrete the bilirubin because of the pathology of liver itself. So that is known as the hepatocellular. First is hemolytic because of the RBC breakdown, increased bilirubin. Hepatocellular is because of the hepatic injury, there is decreased uptake or excretion and conjugation of the bilirubin, and that leads to jaundice. And third is the obstructive type, where there is conjugation is proper, uptake is proper, but the excretion has been defected, and so that is known as obstructive type of jaundice. The third way of classifying is according to site of disease, like prehepatic. So that can be, another name is hemolytic or prehepatic. Then hepatic or hepatocellular, and post-hepatic or obstructive are same. So this is just a different way of classifying jaundice. So jaundice is hepatocellular type, obstructive type, or hemolytic type. Another way is medical, where hepatocellular and hemolytic jaundice is considered as medical jaundice, and obstructive type is considered as surgical jaundice, because in obstructive type, either because of gallstone or some obstructive method, we need surgical intervention. So that is also known as surgical jaundice. Now, what are the different differentiating point between these three types of jaundice is very important. There can be short notes also on jaundice, different types of jaundice, and their different clinical and lab investigation. So, prehepatic, the another name is the hemolytic, hepatocellular, or the hepatic, post-hepatic, or obstructive. What is the basic mechanism of increased bilirubin in case of prehepatic jaundice? So there is hemolysis that leads to excess production of bilirubin. In hepatocellular jaundice, there is deficient uptake of bilirubin, deficient conjugation or excretion by the hepatocytes. In post-hepatic, there is deficient excretion due to obstruction of the biliary tract. So this is the mechanism of jaundice, cause of the jaundice. The second point is to see the which type of bilirubin is increased. Direct, indirect, or conjugated or unconjugated. Which type of bilirubin has been increased. So in prehepatic, the cause is, etiology is hemolysis. So there is mainly unconjugated or indirect bilirubin has been increased. In hepatocellular, both conjugated as well as unconjugated is raised, because some part of conjugation has been defective, so unconjugated is also raised. But in post-hepatic or obstructive jaundice, mainly conjugated bilirubin or the direct bilirubin is the part increased. Third point is urine bilirubin level. So in prehepatic, because raised bilirubin is of indirect type, it is absent in urine. In hepatocellular, it is present, and in post-hepatic or obstructive type also it is present. Then urine urobilinogen level, that is reverse of that urine bilirubin. Like in prehepatic it is increased, in hepatocellular it is variable, and in posthepatic it is decreased or absent. The prototype or the another name is like hemolytic anemia is the reason for prehepatic jaundice. Hepatocellular type of jaundice is mainly caused by viral hepatitis, and post-hepatic is mainly caused by common hepatic duct stones. What is the level of prothrombin in case of different jaundice? So in prehepatic it is normal because the liver function per se is not altered. The cause of jaundice is increased RBC breakdown. So the prothrombin time is normal. But in hepatocellular and post-hepatic, the liver function has been impaired, and so the coagulation factor production, which is caused by the hepatocytes, is affected, and so there is abnormal prothrombin time level is found. Now that is also differentiated by hepatocellular and post-hepatic by giving the injection of vitamin K. In case of hepatocellular jaundice, if we give the vitamin K injection, the prothrombin time will not be corrected because there is deficient production of the coagulation factors. But in case of post-hepatic, because of some obstruction in the bile excretion, there is decreased bile in the intestine, and so the fat soluble vitamins like vitamin K and all are affected, and so there is increased prothrombin time is found. So when we give the vitamin K, the prothrombin time will be corrected or it becomes normal, because prolonged prothrombin time in case of post-hepatic or obstructive jaundice is because of vitamin K deficiency, not because of the deficiency of coagulation factors proper. So if we give the injection of vitamin K, the prothrombin time will get corrected in case of the post-hepatic jaundice. But in case of hepatic jaundice, it will not be corrected because there is deficiency of vitamin K along with deficiency of the coagulation factors proper. Then different enzyme level. In prehepatic it is going to be normal, but in hepatocellular it is markedly increased because there is damage to the hepatocytes, and so there is release of enzymes in the serum which is in very large amount. While in post-hepatic there will be mild increase in the enzyme level of ALT as well as AST. But alkaline phosphatase, it is an enzyme which is specific for the bile canaliculi. So it will be marked rise in case of post-hepatic jaundice and mild increase in hepatocellular jaundice. Then serum cholesterol and its level, it will be normal in prehepatic. In hepatocellular, the ratio will be increased because of the impaired liver function. And in case of post-hepatic, the total cholesterol is increased, but its ratio is normal because mainly it is due to defect in the bile excretion in the intestine and related to the fat absorption. Then Vandenberg reaction that detects whether there is direct bilirubin or indirect. So it will be positive in prehepatic and hepatocellular where there is raised unconjugated bilirubin. But in posthepatic where there is raised conjugated bilirubin, it will be indirectly positive. The other supporting features in prehepatic on peripheral smear examination, you find the raised reticulocyte count, which is the evidence of hemolytic anemia. In hepatocellular type, you will find the Australia antigen or HBs antigen positivity by serological test. And in post-hepatic, you need to do the radiological examination like sonography or CT scan of the abdomen, where you can find some evidence of obstruction to the bile flow by the presence of gallstones or there is impacted stone in the common bile duct or the hepatic duct. Now coming to the next test, that is serum protein measure. Here we measure the total protein and albumin level. The normal range for Total protein is 5.5 to 8 gram per deciliter, and for albumin it is 3.5 to 5.5 gram per deciliter. Normal albumin globulin ratio is up to 1.5, more than 1.5. But in case of the liver dysfunction, this ratio will be reversed because of the decreased albumin production. Now the another synthetic test of liver is the measurement of prothrombin time. That we have seen that it measures the vitamin K dependent factors like 2, 7, 9 and 10, and the normal range for prothrombin time is 11 to 15 seconds. So this prothrombin time will be prolonged in hepatocellular and post-hepatic jaundice like hepatitis, cirrhosis, vitamin K deficiency because of obstructive jaundice and fat malabsorption. And how to differentiate the hepatocellular and obstructive or post-hepatic jaundice? We have seen that vitamin K injection, it will correct the obstructive jaundice or post-hepatic jaundice, but it will not correct the hepatocellular jaundice because there is defective coagulation factor production. Then blood ammonia level. When liver is functioning normally, by urea cycle, ammonia will be converted into non-toxic urea. But when the liver function is deranged, the ammonium level may raise. Normal plasma ammonium level is 9 to 33 micromole per liter. So when there is fulminant hepatic failure, cirrhosis or Ray's syndrome, there will be raised blood ammonium level. Now the test for the different enzymes that will detect the hepatocellular injury or hepatic injury, and because of breakdown of the hepatocytes there is release of enzymes found in the cytoplasm and mitochondria of the hepatocytes. They have been released into the serum, and so the serum level of these enzymes will be raised. Normal serum ALT or SGPT level is 5 to 40. AST or the another name for AST is SGOT is 5 to 40 unit per liter, and the ratio is 0.7 to 1.4. Now what happens in different lesions? There is marked elevation of these enzymes is seen in acute viral hepatitis, toxin-induced hepatocellular damage, or due to CCF when there is ischemic necrosis of the liver. Moderate elevation, that is 5 to 15 times the normal level of SGOT and SGPT, is seen in chronic hepatitis, autoimmune and alcoholic hepatitis, and drug-induced hepatitis. And very mild elevation will be seen in non-alcoholic steatosis, fatty liver, and cholestasis. The another enzymes are the ALP, alkaline phosphatase, but it is also found in different organs apart from the liver, like in bone, intestine, kidney, and placenta. So in the liver, ALP, GGT, and NT, they are located on the canalicular surface of the hepatocytes. So this level of ALP is raised level is more indicative of the canalicular damage or biliary tract damage. Normally in children it has an high upper limit because of the developing bone, and in male and female it is about 25 to 150 and 25 to 90 unit per liter. It's true for this ALP because it is also produced by some other organs. So raised ALP, just by doing the ALP test we cannot point out that it is a liver disease only. It can be some bone disease or other organ affection. Now what are the different differentiating point between these three types of jaundice is very important. There can be short notes also on jaundice, different types of jaundice and their different clinical and lab investigation. So prehepatic, the another name is the hemolytic, hepatocellular or 5NT. It is present in liver as well as in various other tissues also, and it is seen in hepatitis and biliary obstruction. Elevated is seen in both conditions. Now coming to the liver biopsy. What is biopsy? It is to take the small tissue bit from the living person. So, in which the small piece of liver tissue is removed and examined microscopically to determine the cause and the degree of damage to the liver tissue. So, what are the different methods of obtaining the liver biopsy? There are some percutaneous liver biopsy by with just piercing the skin. So that is known as percutaneous liver biopsy. That can be performed blindly, or it can be performed under guidance of USG or the CT MRI guidance, or it can be done by making small incision over the skin, that is known as the percutaneous plug liver biopsy. Then the other method of taking liver biopsy is through transvenous route, where we insert the needle to take the biopsy through the jugular vein. And third is the laparoscopic liver biopsy, where we open the abdomen and take the biopsy, that is known as laparoscopic liver biopsy. This liver biopsy needle comes in your clinical viva tray, where you have to identify the needle and the different parts of the needle. So there are three parts: cannula, the outermost part, the trocar and the stellate, and the main needle which catches the tissue. It has a bifid lip or the fork-like lip, so it can catch the proper amount of the liver tissue. And different names are the Mangini, Jamshidi, True Cut, and Wim Silverman biopsy needle.